Hello world, Mining Moron here, and welcome back to another Hardcore Minecraft video. As of the time of this recording, I started my Hardcore world exactly 1 year ago today, on May 31st, 2020. Back then, I was in Snapshot 20W22A, looking forward to the Nether update. Now, over 4,600 days later, I'm in 1.16.4 and super excited for Minecraft 1.17. I figured I'd make this video just to show you some cool statistics from my 1 year of hardcore Minecraft. First of all, I've opened over 6,600 barrels. The vast majority of these are from my Nether hub, where the storage room has these pillars of barrels capable of storing over 550,000 items, while looking awesome, might I say, though the exact number of items is much lower due to all the non-stackables like potions and empty space. And most of the resources here are from my bartering farm. Stacks upon stacks upon stacks of blackstone, soul sand, crying obsidian, you name it. The number of cauldrons I've filled is 3. I'm not sure when or why I filled 3 cauldrons. They honestly have no use whatsoever in 1.16 except for job site blocks for leather workers, and you really don't have to fill them for that. However, this is going to change in 1.17 with lava farms and powder snow farms, which is super exciting. I'm glad they're buffing the cauldron. On the other hand, chests are actually quite useful, and that's why I've opened over 54,000 of them. They're in the OG storage hall. There's a few hundred in Minelantis, and there's dozens more just randomly scattered all over the map wherever I needed to dump some items without getting rid of them for good. And yeah, those golden apples are often coming in clutch, as I've burned through over 100 golden absorption hearts in the past year. Meanwhile, I've blocked almost 3,000 hearts of damage with shields. While I did use the shield early game before I got my first totem around day 3 or 400, the vast majority of this is from hunting charged creepers, which really do a number on your shields. I've had a couple of times where it broke and left me on 2 or 3 hearts, but this is what I've got out of it. And I've resisted over 600 hearts of damage, mostly from stupid stuff like falling around resistance to beacons because I am clumsy and bad at Minecraft, but I did also eat a god apple once. Let's just say my raid farm leaked. However, despite everything, I've still taken over 9,000 hearts of damage. Mostly the stupidest stuff you can imagine, like, falling off stuff. And now we get into the distance stats. I've climbed 160 kilometers, sneaked 116 kilometers, mostly for building in high places. It's a really useful mechanic since you can't fall off the edge of a block. Fallen 161 kilometers. I told you I was clumsy. Swum 296 kilometers, and tried to swim 195 kilometers underwater and 295 kilometers above water, but failed to hit the sprint key. Did I mention I was clumsy? I've ridden a boat 205 kilometers. We can attribute most of that to moving mobs and using the network of ice boat highways I built in the Nether. Another niche mode of transport is the horse. I've traveled 21.38 kilometers on horse, donkey, or mule. As far as I know, I've only used them a few times, once or twice exploring early game, once to go to the stronghold to fight my first ender dragon, and then once to go back to the stronghold when I needed obsidian and I was out of rockets. And once because, honestly, it was the most efficient way to get a horse out of the spawn chunks. And I've also traveled 32 kilometers by Strider, partly building the sea level areas of my Nether hub, but mostly roaming the lava seas looking for a Strider jockey to add to my Nether trophy room. That took many hours. It was painful. I don't want to relive that, so let's move on. Minecarts are mostly used for farms, not transport, at least in my world, because they're pathetically slow and require pre-existing infrastructure. Like, I could just jump sprint, to be honest. And as such, I've only traveled 453 meters on them, mostly just as a novelty. However, regular old running and walking account for 1989 and 1705 kilometers respectively. But this pales in comparison to my trusty Elytra, in which I've traveled an insane 6,345 kilometers. Admittedly, that's not using one Elytra. Sadly, I accidentally threw my first Elytra into lava, um, while wrangling villagers. And also, I've never ridden a pig in this world. Why would I, really? Finally, let's move on from distances into interactions with workstations. I've crafted about 9,000 times, which is honestly lower than I would have thought. I've been crafting stuff since literally day one and been doing it for a year. Smelted about 8,000 times, which seems reasonable. And needless to say, used the niche workstations a whole lot less, like only 631 interactions with a brewing stand. And apparently, I have literally never used a campfire except as decoration. Also, I've killed more than 50,000 mobs, but there will be a whole section on that later in the video. And I've jumped almost 750,000 times because honestly, who doesn't like jump sprinting? Just don't tell anyone that I didn't know jump sprinting was a thing until I had been playing Minecraft for like almost half a year. I'm embarrassed. Don't tell anyone. Occasionally, when I'm bored, I pursue musical endeavors. I've played 44 music discs and tuned 246 note blocks, which I'm pretty sure was just me playing around with one note block. And funnily enough, in this single-player hardcore world, I've never died, nor have I killed a player. Shocking statistics, I tell you. I've done 55 raids and won 51. The 51 were done at this raid farm back when I actually needed Hero of the Village to get decent trade deals instead of just shoving my villagers into concentration camps with some zombies. The other 4 were from just randomly flying over or walking into villages without realizing I had bad omen. I've never cleaned a shulker box because why would I? Colored shulker boxes are beautiful. But I've opened almost 50,000 shulker boxes. Honestly, I just keep those things everywhere. Half the time, they're basically just expensive, colorful chests filled to the brim with garbage. I've hit 51 target blocks. Literally all of those were me trying to get bullseye one day and failing. I now know there's a way to cheese it, but I'm too lazy. Perhaps the biggest statistic of all is the time played, 47.49 days, or I think 1,100 some hours, and obviously time since last death, also 47.49 days because I never died. I've slept in a bed 3,007 times, or about 65% of nights thus far, and I've traded with villagers an insane 277,000 times because, one, I love flexing with emeralds. I have almost 5 double chests of emerald blocks lying around, not to mention tons of emerald beacons. And it's also villager trading is my main source of EXP. It's how I got 460 plus levels. And yeah, that about wraps it up for general statistics. On to the items. In 1 year, I've mined an estimated 1.05 million blocks. In first place, at 205,000, I've mined more stone than any other block because in Minecraft, I do a lot of mining. Shocking, I know. And also, as you can maybe tell, my current build requires a small amount of stone, so I've been doing a lot of AFK mining at my stone generator as well. Second up is Netherrack at 108,000. It's mostly just netherstone, so naturally I've mined up quite a bit of it, mostly in pursuit of netherites. And as a result, I've carved a massive and terrifyingly labyrinthine network of tunnels at Y level 15 in the nether, going at least 1,000 blocks in every direction, and every time I go down there, I have no idea how to get out. I've mined 76,000 grass blocks and 40,000 dirt blocks. Most of that is just terraforming, like flattening the ground for the spawn chunk castle. And also, partly for terraforming purposes, I've mined 59,000 spruce logs. Since my main base is surrounded by taigas, I've obviously had to clear out tons of spruce trees for my builds. And since spruce wood is one of the best overworld woods, in my opinion, all of this serves a second purpose. And back in the very early game, when my day count was in the hundreds, not thousands, I even turned giant spruce trees into sticks to sell to my Fletchers. Needless to say, my modern trading meta is far more advanced. Coming in at 6th place is gravel with 39,000 blocks mined. I used gravel instead of sand to drain my ocean monument because honestly, gravel is more common. The nearest gravelly mountain is about 1,000 blocks from spawn compared to well over 2,000 for the nearest desert. Plus, gravel is renewable thanks to bartering farms if I ever destroy the gravelly mountain biome. At 7th, we have ice with 32,000 blocks mined. Iceboat highways don't build themselves. In fact, they require the even more expensive packed ice. And yes, I'm too lazy and cheap for blue ice. So naturally, I've spent a lot of time at the ice farm. 8th place goes to sand with 31,000 blocks mined. I honestly don't know why I mined that much sand. I do use a lot of glass, but I just mostly buy that from librarians because it saves on fuel and time in the furnaces. 9th goes to Blackstone with 27,000 blocks mined, almost exactly. And honestly, this one makes sense. Blackstone is one of my favorite 1.16 blocks, and most of the Nether Hub and the Nether Highways are made of it. And before I had a gold farm and a bartering farm, I had to mine the stuff up by hand. And I mined up 27,000 blocks of it. Rounding out the top 10, we have vines at 22,000. The spawn chunk castle requires tons and tons and tons and tons of mossy stone and cobblestone, and the only way to get that is to sit here and grind for vines. Thank God I'll be able to make a full auto moss farm in like a week or two now. Going back to the nether blocks for a moment, we have nether bricks with 18,000 blocks mined. The core of my nether hub is made of these nether bricks, and honestly the most efficient way to get them is to tear down some nether fortresses, so that's literally what I did. In 12th, we have spruce leaves at 17,000 blocks mined. I use these on for the vines in my spawn chunk castle, since unlike actual vines, they don't grow everywhere and also look more three-dimensional, like, things in real life. Next up is scaffolding. I've mined 15,000 scaffolding. Obviously, this is just breaking it down after I'm done with, because it's faster than descending the scaffolding. I've mined 14,000 nether wart blocks because they make a great carpet type block that's fancier than actual carpet blocks, and it goes well with the blues in Minelantis, presents a nice contrast. And speaking of Minelantis, it is mostly made of prismarine bricks, and I've mined 13,000 of those, probably mostly destroying the original ocean monument, but I'm sure that some of that is me fixing my own screw-ups while building. And in 17th place, we have 12,000 jungle leaves. Back in the day, I only had a few jungle saplings, and rockets were hard to come by, so I couldn't just fly to a jungle and get more whenever I needed them. So I had to mine tons of leaves to farm saplings for the little jungle area that I made in the early days of this world. Then in 18th, we have 10,000 warped wart blocks, which serve the same purpose as regular nether wart blocks, but are less pretty and therefore less useful. Also, warped forests, I'm pretty sure, are rarer. And in 19th, we have 10,000 Edenstone. There's literally nothing to mine for in the end, unless you feel like falling into the void, so I only take Endstone I need for building projects, of which there are only a couple, to be honest. The Ender Museum and this terraformed thingy. And finally, wrapping up the top 20, we have 9,500 diorite. Sweet, beautiful diorite. And now we get to the mobs. First of all, I've killed 32 bats. They're annoying, cacophonous, useless, and on the other hand, blazes are actually useful. That's why I've killed 1,580 of them. End rods, potions, and more, but especially end rods. I build with those. I put them everywhere. Those 10 cats didn't deserve to die, but I killed them anyway. Same with the dolphins and the donkeys. I've killed 916 drowned and gotten like 8 or 10 tridents from that, even though there's no need for more than 2 in single player. And since copper farming was nerfed so badly, there's no reason to kill more of them. They're just annoying. On the other hand, the 6 Elder Guardians I killed were really quite useful, since they allowed me to make this Guardian farm, which in turn allowed me to make Minelantis. And on the topic of bosses and mini-bosses, I've killed 20 Ender Dragons, just enough to open up every single end gateway. No point in me killing more unless I need some Dragon's Breath, which I actually might get some more Dragon's Breath before I start building an end base and make dragon fights just not really an option for me. And speaking of the end, I've killed over 2,200 Endermen. I don't have an Enderman farm per se, but I tried to make a Wither Rose farm once, which turned into a regular old Enderman farm after the Wither started blowing stuff up and I had to kill it. The 6 foxes didn't deserve to die either, but I killed them anyway. Also, I was removing some from spawn chunks, so passive mob farms will be a possibility in the future. But don't worry, I saved a few outside of spawn chunks. 473 ghasts, 983 guardians, and 504 hoglins have all met the business end of my sword and or bow, but now that I have AFK farms for all 3, I leave them alone, provided that they leave me alone. I honestly don't know why I killed 3 iron golems, but it wasn't because I needed the iron. I think I once threw a snowball at one while exploring a distant village, and then figured I had to kill him before he killed me, because iron golems don't have a sense of humor. They don't appreciate when you throw snowballs at them. Pro tip. I used to also have to kill magma cubes by hand, almost 4,000 of them. Now I have a magma farm to do it for me. I killed a mushroom once, just for shits and giggles. I also killed a parrot. I don't know why. They're pretty rare. Probably an accident, because I genuinely like parrots and collect them. But I have no regret for killing 171 phantoms. They are irritating, and they drop a marginally useful item. The piglins thought they could stop my conquest of the Nether, but as 977 of them learned the hard way, they couldn't. But they came close. One snuck up on me in my storeroom and got me to 3 hearts a few months ago. As for the brutes, I had to make an example of 10 of them before I could find one who realized it was better to comply with my wishes and be a trophy. The Illagers are another faction that's faced my wrath. 2283 pillagers have met their doom, mostly within the confines of my extremely primitive raid farm. 293 evokers as well, and 1150 vindicators and 382 witches. But now I have all the totems I need and no longer care about Hero of the Village, so it lies unused. My raid farm is meant to kill all the Ravagers with lava, but somehow 3 of them escaped the trap and had to be killed manually. I've killed 290 shulkers, but with 1.17 coming out, my days of hunting shulkers by hand are finally coming to an end. Yes, I killed 6 striders and 10 turtles. Yes, I am a monster. I don't want to talk about the 33 Vexes I had to kill. Let's just say my raid farm can be leaky at times. There was once a wandering trader that spawned on the ground, and the evoker summoned Vexes and attacked it, and then the Vexes came after me. So, fun. Meanwhile, my villager farm is rather laggy. That's why I sometimes have to go in and massacre the excess villagers, and that's why there are 98 dead villagers in my stats. But 62 wandering traders where they magically tripped and fell into a fire while I was a perfectly innocent bystander. But I saved their llamas for no reason. I have a nifty wither killer under the end exit portal. I just wish I'd killed 3 more before making this video. That would be nice, if you see what I mean. But to kill those withers, it took 7,000 wither skeletons. Thank God for wither skeleton farms. They're also my main source of bone meal and fuel these days, unlocking things like super smelters and tree farms on the Minecraft tech tree. I also killed a zoglin once, just for monsters hunted, enough said. And I also killed 9,991 zombie pigmen, more than any other mob thus far, for their gold and XP, but now I have more efficient ways of getting both, and they're neutral, so I just leave them alone generally. And yeah, that about wraps up for this video. I hope you enjoyed this. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and I hope that I'll continue surviving and making content for a second year of hardcore Minecraft. See you in the next one.